Yep.
Okay, great. Shavua Tov, good vach. Good vach. Rabbi Yossi, good vach, Charlie. Good vach, Beryl, good vach, Shalom. Good vach, Yosef. Chaim Racha. So we're a day before the birthday of the two great luminaries, the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. In general, the idea of a birthday wasn't always thought of among our tradition as something that's very special. It wasn't known that it's a special thing. The Torah mentions the birthday of Pare. It wasn't always thought of a birthday as something that we should celebrate. The idea of a birthday being a special thing was something that was revealed by the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, and really it wasn't until our Rebbe made a campaign that everyone should celebrate their birthday, their birthday became something that everyone really focused on and celebrated. So the birth of the Baal Shem Tov, the birth of the Alter Rebbe, which is tomorrow night, it's not just their birthday. There's something about what they taught that is very connected to what a birthday means in general. In other words, their teaching about what a birthday means, about of chassidus, the invention of Torah, is really related to the idea of a birthday. Chassidus teaches us not just to believe in God, not just to know and to be conscious of our faith, but to live with it, to be born into it. That's what the Alter Rebbe and the Baal Shem Tov are trying to do with the teachings of Chassidus, to not just allow us to observe the Torah, but it should be our life, that we live in the Torah. That a mitzvah that you do should be, this is your life, this is all that's going on. The language of the first word of this Torah portion, Tavo, to scuba dive into it, to come into it. So I want to share with you tonight the story of how the Baal Shem Tov was born, how the Alter Rebbe was born, and really it's great day to talk about it today. I'm very anxious about the 18th day of Elul, because from the 18th of Elul on till Rosh Hashanah, there are 12 days, and each day corresponds to 1 month of the year. So we're able, in the last 12 days of the year, to fix up any mistakes we made in the last 12 months of the year. So the 18th of Elul corresponds to the month of Tishrei, and we're able to rectify the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and the Sukkot of everything that happened last year. So imagine somebody who uses out the 18th of Elul in the proper way, they really have a guaranteed blessing for the coming year, because they made the source of energy for that day, of that month, in the best way. So the 18th of Elul is the day you want to focus on to give yourself a good year. So I always, I'm anxious about this day, but today, Baruch Hashem, we're the day before the 18th of Elul, so it's a great day to prepare for this special, special day. There's a lot of information about both the birth of Baal Shem Tov and the birth of the Alter Rebbe. I'll try to share with you at least 4 things about the birth of Baal Shem Tov, and at least 2 things about the birth of the Alter Rebbe. Their birth in general on the 18th of Elul is called by the Jewish people as Yoyim Hiledesh Hagdelim, the day of the birth of the two great luminaries, because it's with their light. The Alter Rebbe was actually born on a Wednesday, as we'll discuss soon, and Wednesday was the day that Hashem put the sun and the moon in the sky. So the two great luminaries are referred to in the Torah, are referring to the sun and the moon, but by Chassidim, we call the Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe, the two great luminaries. Chassidim say that the Baal Shem Tov taught us, he put up the ladder of serving God. This is the way to serve God. And the Alter Rebbe taught us how to climb up that ladder. Regarding Elul specifically, it says Baal Shem Tov and the 18th of Elul bring us life in the whole idea of Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi. So I should come to my beloved, I should be close to Hashem, and Hashem should be close to me, to love. This is something that Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe revealed to us. So let's go to their story of their birth. The story of the Baal Shem Tov, of course, you would expect this, right? The story of the Baal Shem Tov, Hashana's birth, exists far before the Baal Shem Tov was born. In the year Shin Lamed Gimel, in Sfas, there was a man who was a very sincere person, didn't know how to do anything more than just daven, but he was a very God-fearing person. And Eliyahu Hanavi was sent from heaven to this man in Sfas to tell him to teach him the secrets of the Torah, and to tell him, he knocked on the door, he tells the man, I'm here to tell you the secrets of the Torah, and to tell you the time Mashiach will come. This is all in merit of what you did on the day of your Bar Mitzvah. Because you did on the day of your Bar Mitzvah, it has been decreed that you're going to know all the secrets of the Torah, and you're also going to know the exact time Mashiach will come. I just need to know, Yonavi says, just tell me, what did you do on the day of your Bar Mitzvah? I would like to know what you did on that day, and then I will tell you when Mashiach will come, and I'll tell you, and I will teach you the secrets of the Torah. So this man told Eliyahu Navi, he said, what I did it only for the honor of God. I didn't do it for the honor of anybody else. And therefore, I cannot tell you what I did, because that would be, I have a tradition that I received from my parents. And when you do something only for the honor of God and for no one else. And therefore, I cannot tell you what I did. If Hashem wants me to tell you, then he would have told you. But I cannot tell you what I did. So Eliyahu Navi is this, this is a special gift, a revelation of Elijah the prophet. It's not something that everyone gets every day. And this man, with sincerity, he's like, no, I just can't tell you. I did it in honor of Hashem. So here, Rosie, he didn't want to tell him. So he went back to the heavenly court. He comes back to heaven, and there was a huge tumult in the heavenly court. Look, you didn't hear this part yet, Rosie. This caused a whole tumult in heaven, and it was decreed in heaven that in the merit of this person's sincerity, he would become back to the world again, and instead of being hidden like he was then, he would come back and reveal to the world a path in serving God that would fill the world with knowledge, like water will cover the ocean bed, and prepare the world for coming Mashiach. And actually, in his lifetime, Eliyahu Navi came back to the world to teach him the Torah as he had promised, even though he made it conditionally originally that only if he tells him, but it was decreed in heaven that he should teach this man Torah. This man became the greatest Torah scholar in his generation, but nobody knew about it. No one knew how great he was, but it was decreed in heaven that after he passed away, that he should come back to the world again. And when he comes back to the world again, he will teach Torah to the world and fill the world with Torah to prepare the world for the coming Mashiach. So this Jew from Sfas, this Jew was the soul of the Baal Shem. Baal Shem Tov's parents, Rebbe Eliezer and Rebbe Sarah, didn't have any children. They were very old. In fact, there is there is a handwritten account of the Alter Rebbe about the birth of the Baal Shem Tov, which says something astonishing. This handwritten account that the Alter Rebbe wrote down, we don't have it. We don't have the actual words of the Alter Rebbe, the actual paper. There's a whole story about this paper. The previous Rebbe said about this paper that the Friedrich Rebbe writes about this paper that this paper was, thank you, Chayla. This paper was seen by someone who worked in the house of the Tzemach Tzedek, an old man working in the house of the Tzedek, and he was cleaning for Pesach, and he came across this particular paper, and he wanted to transcribe what he saw in this paper, because it's what it said. There was unbelievable. But the Tzemach Tzedek's son, whose name was the Maharil, said, you can't write it down. My father, the Tzemach Tzedek, also didn't want to write it down. Rabbi Parcha tried to write it down, and then there was a fire. Something special about this special teaching that the Alter Rebbe said there that wasn't, apparently the world didn't merit to have it published in that way, that we should actually have the teaching of the Alter Rebbe written down. What the Alter Rebbe said in that paper was, we do know what he said, the elder shared it, what he had read, that the Rebbe Eliezer was 100 years old, and Sarah, Rebbe Sarah, the Baal Shem Tov's mother, was 90 years old when they gave birth to the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov, at 3 months old, was able to walk and talk and speak and think like an adult. That's what it says in that paper. And it continues, Alter Rebbe says, he heard this all from Baal Shem Tov when he was awake. And he adds that concerning Avram Avinu, there's an argument how old Avram Avinu was and he recognized Hashem. But concerning the Baal Shem Tov, there's no argument. Baal Shem Tov recognized Hashem, his level, at the age of 3 years old. One opinion about Avraham Avinu that he was 3 years old, recognized Hashem. One opinion that he was 48 years old, but concerning Baal Shem Tov, his recognition of Hashem, whatever that means, on his level, was at the age of 3 years old. Okay, so before the Baal Shem Tov was born, his parents, Rabbi Eliezer, this is all from the writing of the previous Rebbe. The following story, what I just shared with you was right from Alter Rebbe wrote this down. What I'm about to share with you is from the previous Rebbe's writings. The previous Rebbe writes that the Mezritcher Maggid once told the Alter Rebbe something. He said, I'm going to tell you something, but you cannot ask me where I heard this from. Sounds very mysterious, right? Sounds really heebie-jeebie stuff. I'm going to tell you something, a teaching, but you can't ask me where I heard this from. What was the teaching? Teaching is that this was, in another place, the previous Rebbe said that this was in context with blessing the Alter Rebbe with a child. The Alter Rebbe's son, the Mittler Rebbe, who was named after the Alter Rebbe's teacher, Mezritcher Maggid, who told the Alter Rebbe this story, this teaching. Mezritcher Maggid told the Alter Rebbe, I'm going to tell you a teaching, you cannot ask me where I got this from. The teaching is, it says in Psalms, in 119 in Psalms, it says, literally that means, how can someone young purify their path? Said the Mezritcher Maggid, also means, how can you merit to have a child? The way to merit to have a child, as orchai, the word orchai doesn't just mean path, it also means a guest. The way to have a child is by having guests. And the merit of having guests, that's how you have a child. And then he told Alter Rebbe the following story. The Baal Shem Tov's parents were well-to-do, and they used all of their money, and they were wealthy, they were well-to-do. And they used all their money to support their guests. They used to have a guest come to their house every week. They had about 20 or 30 guests for Shabbos every week. And every week when they came to their house, they would stay, not just for Shabbos, they would stay until Sunday morning. So one time, there was decreed in Shemaim that someone had to go and test the parents of the Baal Shem Tov to see if they would merit to have the great blessing of being the parents of this great neshama, of this Jew I mentioned from Tzfas. So it was Shabbos afternoon, the second meal of Shabbos afternoon, and this man arrives at the door of the Baal Shem Tov. I know the story is recounted in many different places, in many different ways. You can sit there, Yisrael. This story is counted in many different places, many different ways. This is the way the previous Rebbe writes the story. This is the authentic version of the story is related. The guy comes to the door on Shabbos, and you could tell from the way he arrived at the door that he had just came to town. And the parents of Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi and Sarah, they greeted him and they welcomed him. And they said, "Please come in," and they offered him food and drink. And the other guests were appalled. They were appalled because they said, it looks like this guy has just walked here from another town. And that means he's transgressing the violation of Tchum Shabbos. Tchum Shabbos means that on Shabbos, you're not allowed to walk more than 2,000 cubits, which is about 3,000, 4,000 feet outside of a city on Shabbos. So this guy had clearly walked to town on Shabbos. So how can you honor him? They said to him further, the greatest person at having guests, the one who is known to have the greatest hospitality was Avraham Avinu. And Avraham Avinu had a condition for his guests. His condition was you had to say a blessing and thank God for the food. If you did not thank God for the food, so that if you wouldn't thank God for the food, Avraham Avinu told his guests that they had to pay for the food. So if Avraham Avinu, he was the master of having guests, he still had a standard of who he would accept and who he wouldn't accept. So you should for sure have a standard. You can't be better than him. And how dare you greet this person who has clearly violated the Shabbos? That's what they told the Baal Shem Tov's parents. That's what the guests said. And apparently it was in front of this man who had visited on Shabbos and who walked in from wherever he had walked. So the Rabbi Eliezer was really hurt, and he went out of the room where he was hosting all these guests and went to another room, and he started to cry. And he was crying and crying. He felt so bad, like, is he doing the right thing, the wrong thing? And all his guests are saying he's doing the wrong thing. He started to cry. And he remembered, actually, he doesn't say that he was wondering whether he was doing the right thing or the wrong thing, but he was very bothered what they said. He cried. Anyway, so then he returns to the room because he realized that his guests wouldn't feel good being in the presence of all these people who clearly didn't think that he was a nice person that people should be friendly to. So he went back to the room and he decided to act even more hospitable to this guest. And it came to the third meal of Shabbos, and he was even more hospitable, even more friendly to this guest. He made him feel as comfortable as he could. And as I mentioned, the guests in the house of Eliezer and Sarah, they stayed in the house until Sunday morning. So it came Sunday morning, this guest told Rabbi Eliezer, I want you to know that I'm Eliyahu, and I came here from Shemayim to tell you that you and your wife will merit to have a child, and this child will illuminate the world, and you should tell your child when he turns 2.5. Again, there's different, I know I said 3 or 3 before, I'm not sure, but here's what the previous writes. Tell him when he turns 2.5 that Hashem created the heaven and earth, and he should fear no one except for Hashem alone. Tell him that Hashem alone created the heaven and earth, and he should fear no one except for Hashem alone. Now, there is another teaching that the Baal Shem Tov's father gave the Baal Shem Tov before he passed away, and the previous Rebbe writes in another place that was at the age of 5 years old. And at 5 years old, the Baal Shem Tov's father told the Baal Shem Tov, you should fear no one except for Hashem alone. And he also told him, you should love every Jew, whoever he may be, in whatever situation it may be, with all the fire of your heart and the depth of your neshama. That's what he told him before he passed away. And these 2 teachings, to fear no one except for Hashem, and to love every Jew with all the fire of your heart and the depth of your neshama, these 2 teachings became for the Baal Shem Tov like the 2 tablets, the previous Rebbe says, like the 2 tablets that God gave us the Torah, not 2 pizzas, 2 tablets. Just like Hashem gave us the Torah and 2 tablets for the Baal Shem Tov, these 2 tablets were these 2 teachings, fear no one except and to love every Jew. And they became, as the previous Rebbe said, they became for the Baal Shem Tov like the tree of knowledge and the tree of life for the Baal Shem Tov. It became so important to him. This is what he lived his life off of. And this is what chassidus is based on. Anyway, so that's the story of the Baal Shem Tov's birth. I want to add one more point. 9 months before the Baal Shem Tov's birth, just highlights how the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe have such a deep connection to each other. 9 months before the Baal Shem Tov's birth is the 19th day of Kislev. And that night, before the Baal Shem Tov's parents, Joshua Baal Shem Tov's father, Eliezer, was visited by a heavenly guest, doesn't say who it was, and he told him that the child you're going to have is going to be someone really special, again, who will illuminate the world with his teachings. This is what he heard on the 19th of Kislev, which is a special day, of course, as I'm sure many of you know. The 19th of Kislev is a day when the Alter Rebbe was redeemed from prison, and the day when the teachings of Chassidus began to be revealed in a whole new way. So the conception of the Baal Shem Tov was also on the 19th of Kislev. Okay, that's the story of the Baal Shem Tov. Now, connecting this now with how the Alter Rebbe was born. There's actually, the story of the Alter Rebbe's birth also begins before the Alter Rebbe was born. It says in general in Kabbalah that in order for neshama to prepare to come to this world, neshama needs to prepare in Gan Eden. How does neshama prepare in Gan Eden? Neshama needs, it's a fleshik in the passover. Okay, so a year before a neshama comes to the world, a neshama needs to appear in farbrengen Gan Eden with all the other neshamas. He needs to really get souped up with energy before coming to the world. That's what every neshama needs to have 1 year of preparation. But some neshamas need to have 3 years of preparation. A new neshama that has never come to the world before needs to get souped up with farbrengen and hanging around and learning Torah with all other souls in a special way, a special, unique preparation. Of course, Gan Eden is a place where they learn Torah and they pray all the time. But there's some unique gift that God gives souls a year before they come to the world. And a neshama that's a brand new neshama that's never been here before requires 3 years of intense revelation of godliness to prepare for coming to the world. By the way, this is relevant also to Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah is a time when the first neshama was born, Adam's soul was born, and in Adam's soul, every soul is connected to that soul. And just like when Adam was born, God makes the soul swear to before they're born to be a tzaddik. So on Rosh Hashanah, it's and not just Rosh Hashanah, also everyone's birthday. It's like a time of your personal Rosh Hashanah when you again accept that mission of yours to be a tzaddik, which is very connected to the 18th of El again, which corresponds to the month of Tishrei, the month of Rosh Hashanah. So it's a time to focus on that oath we gave Hashem to be a tzaddik. The word oath is related to the word satiated, to be full. Because when a neshama comes before God, before coming to this world, not just does Hashem obligate the soul to do a tzaddik, Hashem also fills the neshama up with the strength the neshama needs to do its mission. So how much energy do you need? So a regular neshama needs 1 year of special preparation, but a new neshama needs 3 years. Now, when you say the word new neshama, the literal translation of new neshama, it's conventionally translated is that the Alter Rebbe's neshama was a neshama that never came to the world before. But there's another tradition that the meaning of a new neshama is that the Alter Rebbe's neshama was from the souls that are from the new era, the era of the coming of Mashiach. That the Alter Rebbe's neshama is from the future citizens of the world, of the coming of Mashiach, who have special souls. The Alter Rebbe's neshama was from those generations of souls that will be born after Mashiach's coming. So anyway, so Alter Rebbe's neshama was preparing Gan Eden for 3 years before. The Alter Rebbe's parents, their names were Reb Baruch and Rebbe Rivka. The Alter Rebbe's parents were married for 10 months after their wedding, and they did not have any children. It says that the Alter Rebbe's parents weren't able biologically to have children, but they came to Baal Shem Tov on the 18th of Elul. The 18th of Elul was the day that Baal Shem Tov would celebrate as his birthday, and he would be the chazan. He would lead the prayers for Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv on that day, and he also make a special meal to celebrate his birthday. So that year, Reb Baruch and Rebbe Rivka came to the Baal Shem Tov, and after this special gathering of the Baal Shem Tov, Reb Baruch and Rebbe Rivka were in an audience with the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov said to them, exactly 1 year from now, on the 18th of Elul, you will have a child. I'm trying to use the words the Torah says about the angels told Avram about Yitzchak, exactly in 1 year that the angels visited Avram, exactly 1 year later on Pesach, Yitzchak will be born. So similar way, exactly 1 year after the Baal Shem Tov told the parents of the Alter they'll have a child, they were blessed with the birth of the Alter Rebbe. The Baal Shem Tov told them already then that they should, many things that they should do to prepare and how they should treat this child. The Baal Shem Tov said that usually when a child does various antics, the parents brag, every child does various antics, right, Rosie? Children do antics, right, Rosie? Right, I'm always bragging about your antics, Rosie? Right, so the parents like doing this, but the Baal Shem Tov said that they should not tell any of the antics of the Alter Rebbe to anybody else. In other words, he may be a wonder child, but no one should know about it because of a fear of Ayin Hara. And he told them about the unique role that this neshama would have. The Alter Rebbe's mother, Rebbe Rivka, told the Baal Shem Tov that she promises the Baal Shem Tov that when she has this child, she will promise to do what Chana did, the mother of Samuel, the mother of Shmuel Hanavi. Just like when before Chana gave birth to Chana, also it's related to Rosh Hashanah. Chana was remembered on Rosh Hashanah to have a child. It was on Rosh Hashanah that Hashem answered Chana's prayer to have a child. So the Chana told Hashem before she had a child that if God will give me a child, I will dedicate my child to serve God all the days of his life. So in a similar way, Rebbe Rivka told the Baal Shem Tov if she will have a child, she will bring him to the Baal Shem Tov, and he will be a servant of God in the path of chassidus and the path of the Baal Shem Tov. Okay, they leave, and the following year, the Baal Shem Tov was very joyous. The Baal Shem Tov knew that a new neshama was going to be born in the world. He didn't know who would parent that neshama. He knew that a new neshama was coming to the world, but he didn't know that this was the same neshama that was going to come to the parents of Rabbi Baruch and Rebbe Rivka. But he was very joyous when the neshama was born, and he, in Mezhebush, was celebrating the birth of this neshama. He usually, when you pray on the 18th of Elul, we do recite the confessionary prayers. Although the Rebbe said once that it depends on how you feel. If you feel especially joyous on the 18th of Elul, you could omit saying the confessionary prayers. As many of us tend to do. So anyways, the 18th of Elul is this very joyous day, and Baal Shem Tov said, what, Rosie? Okay, so Baal Shem Tov said, on that day, he led the prayers with unusual joy. His students were all wondering about the special joy he had on that day. They didn't know what happened. And he skipped all the confessionary prayers. And that day, the day the Alter Rebbe was born. And the Baal Shem Tov told the students that an neshama has just been born to the world that will give light to the world with two lights. The light of the revealed Torah and the light of the inner dimension of Torah. And that's actually what happened. The Alter Rebbe was born. The Alter Rebbe, his name is Shnei Ur. Shnei Ur means two lights because the Alter Rebbe revealed in the world the two lights, both are revealed by writing the Shulchan Aruch and lighting the teachings of chassidus by writing the Tanya. So the Baal Shem Tov said that on Wednesday, it was a Wednesday that day, just like God put into the sky the sun and the moon, and that week was Parshas Kisaveh. Chayil was on the Wednesday of Parshas Kisaveh. The Baal Shem Tov says the Haftarah of Parshas Kisaveh is Kumi Eirech Ki Ba'eirech. Let my light shine because your light has come. That's a pasuk in this week's Haftarah talking about Hashem giving light to Jewish people. So Baal Shem Tov said that an neshama has come to the world on this day, on this Wednesday of the year Tav Kuf Hey, that will give light to the world with these two kinds of light. And then the Baal Shem Tov, he was visited the following year, actually, I'm sorry, 2 years later, by Rebbe Baruch on the 18th of Elul again, and Rebbe Baruch was telling the Baal Shem Tov about the Alter Rebbe, and the Baal Shem Tov said, and he told the Alter Rebbe that his mother, Rebbe Rivka, wants to come with Rebbe Baruch's sister, Rebbe Leah, and they want to bring the Alter Rebbe to the Baal Shem Tov so that the Baal Shem Tov should do the haircut, the upshernish for the Alter Rebbe. So the Baal Shem Tov agreed. This part you heard, right, Rose? The Baal Shem Tov agreed only on condition that they would come right after the morning prayers and they would leave immediately after the prayers with the Alter Rebbe. He can't know at all. He can't know at all where he was and why he was there. And the reason for this, Baal Shem Tov said, is because the Alter Rebbe is meant to be a student of the Zisha Maggid, of his successor, and he doesn't want to. Well, so what happened was they came the following year. I just want to mention one more thing. The Baal Shem Tov, after Alter Rebbe was born, he continuously spoke about the Baal. He was especially joyous that whole month of El and Tishrei. Even on Parshas Noach, the Baal Shem Tov spoke about the Alter Rebbe's neshama, how this neshama came to the world, and Zeyina Chamenu, this neshama will comfort us. That's a phrase that's used about Noach, and a phrase that's used about the coming of Mashiach. This neshama will come to the world, that will give light to the world, and will comfort us. Okay, so they came to the Baal Shem Tov the following year. They brought the Alter Rebbe to the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov cut the Alter Rebbe's hair, and as promised, they left right afterwards. And after they left, the Baal Shem Tov said that this neshama that he had told this chassidim about, this neshama has now turned 3 years old. And just like Avram Avinu recognized Hashem at the age of 3, so too this neshama recognizes Hashem. This boy recognizes Hashem. And he will have to have sacrifice for chassidus, just like Avram Avinu had sacrificed to reveal godliness in the world, so too will this neshama have to contend with intense adversaries in order to spread the teachings of chassidus until the coming of Mashiach. So this is the story of the Alter Rebbe's birth and the Baal Shem Tov's birth. And this really highlights for us how all of chassidus and all of Yiddishkeit is resting on our shoulders. We are now in the last moments of Golus, and just like the Baal Shem Tov's father told them that the key to life is not to be fear of anyone, and to love every Jew, all the fire of your heart and the depth of your neshama. So this is the I'll make it a base before you bench, yeah. Okay, let's conclude. The Baal Shem Tov's birth is associated with the sacrifice of his parents for Avos Yisrael. Baal Shem Tov's introduced that chassidus is all about Avos Yisrael. And therefore, this is the key to bring about in the last moments of exile. The key thing we need to do to tip the scale, the last thing we need to do, the last word, last thought, last action we need to do to tip the scale is to have sacrifice to reveal godliness in the world through a pasuk and tilim, saying a bracha, and especially reaching out to another Jew and share with them these teachings of Baal Shem Tov and teachings of Alter Rebbe. L'chaim, l'chaim, v'bracha.
I
Good
am.
Davach.
Good
Good
about.
Davach, David. Good Davach, Rabbi Reber. Good Davach, Charlie. Good Davach, Jonathan. Good Davach, Michal David. Good Davach, Rebbe. Good Davach, Yosef. Good Davach, Jeff. Good Davach, Jonathan. Good Davach, Joseph. Good Davach, Baruch.
Thank you. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
Good
Satiation. Rabbi Levin, what was the word for like oath that you said was synonymous? You're using oath. What are you using for oath? What's the word?
Shavua has three meanings. Shavua means oath. Shavua means to be satiated, and Shavua means to be means seven. Before Hashem comes to the world, Hashem satiates it, fills it with energy to do its mission. Everyone according to their mission, as you see in the story. And the main mission is to rectify our character, our seven emotional character traits. That's why Shavua also equals to the number seven.
But is Savata supposed to be with a samech?
No, Shavua is with a shin,
right?
And Sova is with a sin, not a samech, the sin. Shin and sin are interchangeable in the shroshim, in the roots of word.
Okay.
All right. Good Davach. Hopefully,
good satiation. Shabbat tov.
7 o'clock.